You wake up and you can't move. Not because you're tired, not because you're wounded, because you are the emperor of mankind, and the golden throne is holding you like a coffin made of light. You feel a billion prayers slam into your mind like waves. You feel the warp pushing back, testing the weakest seam. And somewhere deep beneath Terra, machines older than empires drink your pain and call it stability. In the next few minutes, you're going to live a full day as the Emperor, the first sacrifice that feeds the Imperium's lighthouse, the lies spoken in your name, the war you fight without lifting a hand, and the memories that still bleed through, back when you could walk, speak, and almost save humanity. But here's the question that haunts every hour of your existence. What happens to mankind the instant you stop? The chamber around you is vast, cathedral vast, yet it feels smaller than a cell. Gold, stone, incense, static. Cables thicker than a man's torso disappear into your spine and into the throne like roots into a hungry world. Somewhere far above, you sense the surface of Terra. Traffic, alarms, hymn choirs, riots that will be called processions. Somewhere far beyond, you sense the Imperium's borders. War fronts like open sores across the galaxy. And between those two extremes is your mind, stretched thin, burning, forced to be a beacon. The first wave hits you gently at first. A choir of psychers, trained, terrified, willing or not, begins the ritual. You don't see them with eyes, you feel them as candles. One by one, those candles are brought close to your flame. And the cruel truth is this: you do not eat them. You do not choose this. The system does. 1,000 souls, offered to keep the Astronomican bright enough for navigators to steer mankind through hell. 1,000 tiny lights, dimming, so that humanity can pretend it still has a road. And you, God, corpse, king, endure it. Because if the light goes out, the warp does not merely get worse. It arrives. It floods shipping lanes. It shreds fleets into lost centuries. It isolates worlds until they forget they were ever human. So, the day begins with a bargain you never get to renegotiate. And the question opens its jaws again. How many lives is one day of hope worth? For a moment, just a moment, you remember legs. Not the throne, not the cables, not the immobility. You remember walking through a hangar of thunderhawks and gunmetal, with soldiers kneeling because they can't help themselves. The Great Crusade, the promise, the lie you told yourself was necessary. You remember the taste of clean air on a world that hadn't been poisoned by war. You remember standing before a newly compliant ruler and saying, without raising your voice, that humanity would not crawl in the dark anymore. No gods, no superstition, no chains, only unity, only reason, only survival. And you believed it. You believed you could replace faith with truth, like swapping a blade for a better blade. But even then, looking back, you can see the flaw like a hairline crack in perfect gold. Humanity doesn't just want safety, it wants meaning. And meaning, unchecked, becomes worship. The flashback snaps away. You're back in the throne room, back in the coffin of light. And now, worship isn't a future risk, it is your daily weather. They come to you in waves, not to ask permission, not to seek guidance, to be seen. High lords, adepts, priests, envoys in robes heavy enough to drown in. Each one speaks carefully, like your silence is a weapon that might go off if they mispronounce a word. You cannot turn your head. You cannot blink meaningfully. You cannot tell the truth out loud. But you can feel them. You can taste ambition like iron on the tongue. You can hear the tiny, frantic heartbeat of corruption beneath ceremonial calm. A governor asks for reinforcements, and you feel the part they're not saying. They don't want protection. They want their rivals to die. A cardinal pleads for purity, and you feel the hidden sweetness beneath it. They want power, dressed as holiness. A mechanicus representative lists repair schedules for the throne, and you feel the terror behind their precision. They do not fully understand the device they keep alive. It isn't a throne, truly. It's a failing bridge over an endless abyss, and everyone in this room knows it. But they speak anyway, they perform anyway, because as long as you sit there, silent, they can pretend the foundation still holds. Then a new voice enters the chamber, a custodian, not loud, not pleading, just present. You feel the difference instantly. Where others orbit you like insects around a lamp, the custodes stand like pillars. They are not your subjects, they are your vow made flesh. And when the custodian kneels, the room kneels with him. Not for the emperor, for the idea of an emperor. And you realize something cold. Even here, even now, you are not a man. You are a symbol that everyone uses, including the people who still love you. And that raises the next unbearable question. If your empire survives by misunderstanding you, do you correct it or let it endure? You remember another room, older than this one. Less gold, more paper, maps, star charts, plans that could remake the species. Malcador speaks to you like an equal, because he is the only one who can. His eyes are tired in a way yours will become. He warns you, softly, that your sons are not tools, they are people, and people bleed into their own myths. You brush it aside because time is a predator, because the galaxy is burning, because you can almost see the finish line, and behind it, your dream, the Webway, a path through the warp without touching it, a road humanity could walk without offering its soul as toll. You were so close that you started to believe close was the same as one. The flashback fractures. You are back on the throne, and the Webway isn't a dream, it's a wound. The warp presses against you like a deep-sea current. At first it's subtle, a pressure behind the eyes you no longer use, a vibration in the bones you no longer feel. Then it sharpens. You sense laughter that isn't sound. You sense hunger that isn't physical. You sense intelligence that hates you not for what you've done, but for what you are. A refusal. You are the great refusal. The thing that says mankind does not belong to the dark, and the dark answers back. You hold the Astronomican steady. You hold the breach at bay. You hold your mind together while it is pulled in 10,000 directions by worship, logistics, war, and nightmare, and nobody sees it. A fleet wins a battle on the edge of the segmentum, and they credit a saint. A city survives a demonic incursion, and they credit a relic. A child lives through a warp storm, and they credit a prayer. None of them feel the truth, that you are holding a door shut with your bare soul, and the door is beginning to creak, because the day's sacrifices are never enough, because the Imperium is too vast, too loud, too broken, because every scream in the galaxy echoes into you eventually. Then, suddenly, there's a flicker. Not in the Astronomican, in you. A memory surfaces like a shipwreck rising from black water. Horus. And you feel something you haven't felt in a very long time. Not pain, not duty, regret. You remember a Primarch's laughter, the confidence, the charisma, the way entire armies straightened their backs when he entered a room. You remember trusting him, not because you were naive, because you were desperate. You needed someone to carry the crusade while you built the Webway. You needed your dream to outrun the galaxy's hunger, so you gave him your authority, and you told yourself it was temporary. Then you remember the moment you realized your mistake. Not the betrayal itself, the silence around it. The way the galaxy held its breath. The way your empire, a thing you forged from fire, could still fracture like glass. You remember the war that followed. Worlds burning. Brothers killing brothers. The taste of failure on your tongue. And then the last memory in the chain. The throne becoming a cage. The flashback ends. You are back where you always are. And now the question is sharper, uglier. If you could relive that choice, would you still create the Primarchs? The day moves toward evening, though the throne room never changes its light. Here, time is measured by footsteps and heartbeats, and the slow decay of machinery. A report arrives, filtered through layers of protocol, translated into ritual language, so nobody has to admit fear. A crusade struggles, a rift in reality widens, a sector goes silent. Somewhere out there, Guilliman moves your armies like a man trying to hold back an ocean with his hands. A loyal son, returned to a house that no longer remembers what it was supposed to be. They want you to guide him. They want you to speak. They want a miracle they can package as certainty, but you cannot speak. So you do the only thing you can do. You reach, carefully, through the psychic noise. You push one thought like a needle through a storm. Not words, not a proclamation, a dream, a single image, a lighthouse on a cliff, waves smashing it, the light inside refusing to die. And inside that dream, you hide a warning you can't say aloud. The Imperium is not the goal, it is the raft. Do not worship the raft. Do not paint it gold and call it eternal. Row. The message leaves you weaker. The warp notices the movement like a shark noticing blood, and the throne groans. Not a sound, and a Shushania. A wrongness in the machine's spirit, a flicker in the bridge over the abyss. Everyone in the chamber freezes, because for half a second, the galaxy feels farther away, and you realize the final twist of the day. The Golden Throne doesn't just sustain you, it measures you. It reminds you, coldly, that you can be replaced by absence. And you ask the question you never allow yourself to ask. Is the Imperium keeping you alive, or is it keeping you trapped? Night on Terra means something. Here, it's only the thinning of visitors, the hush of fewer footsteps, the brief illusion that the universe has quieted. But your mind never quiets. The prayers keep coming, not because people love you, but because fear is endless, and your name is the biggest shield they have. And buried inside those prayers is the final, terrible truth. Humanity doesn't just need your light, it needs your suffering, because suffering is proof. Suffering is story. Suffering is what makes a god feel real. If you were healthy, if you stood up, if you spoke plainly, you would become human again, and that would break the spell. So the Imperium feeds you to keep you sacred. It binds you to keep you useful. It mythologizes you to keep itself alive. And you, who once tried to kill superstition with reason, have become the greatest superstition in history. The day closes the way it began, with fuel offered to a fire. You feel the last wave of psychers dim. You feel the Astronomican steady. You feel the warp recoil, unsatisfied. And you remain, silent, burning, necessary. One final thought rises, uninvited. This is not a reign, it is a siege. And you are both the fortress and the prisoner inside it. So here's the last question, one you can't escape, one that follows you into the next day and the next 10,000 years. If you were the emperor for 24 hours, what would you sacrifice to change the Imperium? And what would you refuse to sacrifice, no matter what it costs? Tell me in the comments, do you try to break the throne, or do you keep the light alive for one more day?